Hello everyone, and welcome to another 365 days of weather scrapbooking that I am collaborating with Julie Carriere. If you've already been watching the series so far, you'll know that we are scrapbooking this year using our weather as the colours that are chosen, just like a knitted or a crocheted weather blanket. We determined the colours for a range of temperatures, and according to the daily weather, that is what we are doing for our scrapbook layouts. Julie is posting her layout today as well, so make sure you go and check hers out. There'll be a link at the end of the video, and I'll also have a link to the playlist in the description below. You can see from this layout here, June was my month to design the sketch and work on it, that I have created a layout with a whole heap of triangles. Now, I've just taken a photo of my screen for this, but you can see on my left side I am all in the New England Ivy range. Pretty much all of this is dark New England Ivy. There's a couple of the light side of the cardstock, which is great. I love that our cardstock is double-sided. So to differentiate between those, I decided to ink up the edges. So I'm just going to quickly show you how I did that. I've just got my regular black ink, and this is an avocado piece because it will show up better on camera than doing this on a New England Ivy piece. This is one that I've done already. You might be able to see the black lines around it, but rather than getting a blending brush and going in the edges like this, it's quicker for me just to run it through just a few times, holding it fairly upright so that I get a nice distinct line. I did think about writing with my journaling pen and doing all the lines around each of those, but this is just so much easier and quicker, and I don't have to worry about getting all my lines straight. So when I put this on a piece of just white copy paper, you can see a nice crisp black line around the edge of all of this, and this is going to help distinguish the colours from one day to the next. I'm just going to bring in my pages. I've already prepped and stuck these down so you can see that this nice crisp black edge is from inking. Here I've gone a little bit too much of an angle, but it doesn't really matter. I've got some embellishments that I'm going to drape across this, and it makes a lovely tile look. And because this is mainly all New England Ivy and I've got avocado all up against each other, I only had one of the light side of the avocado days, I think it gives a great effect. Now, a little tip with adhering this, I didn't actually apply my adhesive to each triangle. What I did is get my tape runner and run it down close to the edge at about 1 inch in, and then at about 2 inches in, I used my T-ruler and I just went down like this. So I've got long strips of adhesive here, and I find that much easier to place the triangles on top. And then I just went across this way. For this one, I actually adhered the tape runner directly to the triangle piece. So that's the base of the page done. I've already gone ahead and I've done my title, and this is KG Strawberry Limeade, the font that I've been using throughout. I have a tutorial on the April layout. There'll be a link at the top here of the screen so that you can check that out, and I'll also put a link to that below, and I give you a little tutorial on how to do these overlay style letters, which I love. The base is white, the top is an overlay, and you may have noticed that I've done something a little bit differently this month. Instead of using white daisy as my base layer, I've actually used the light side of linen. You can see there is a little bit of a difference in shading between the dark side and the light side of linen, and it's not quite as stark as the white. I wanted a softer feel for this. So I'm just going to move these aside, and then I'm going to show you the floral elements that I'm putting on this page. These are from the Australia-New Zealand Close to My Heart collection, and they are still available on my website. I'll put a link to those down below, as well as everything else that I've used. But rather than keep the flat colour of these cardstocks, I wanted to add a little bit of texture, and I'm going to do that with some inking. I've got Sundance and Sage, and I'm going to do the leaves first. This is a little bit different from blending it all in. What I'm going to do is actually just some pouncing. I'm not going to blend it all. I want some texture on these. It doesn't have to be totally perfect. The brushes are the best thing to use for this sort of technique. The sponges tend to be too smooth, so you won't get that texture. See how this has got a little bit of texture to it. The ink will fade into the cardstock a little bit, so I can go back in and I can add some more and bring out that sage colour just a little bit more. I'm going back into the ones I've already prepared because, as I said, the ink has faded into that, and I just want to deepen this just a little bit. I find with Cricut cuts that doing a little bit of a treatment like this just brings these shapes to life. With stamping, you can have texture in all the lines and then you can colour it, but with cardstock, when you cut it out on a thin cut or with a Cricut shape, it's a little bit flat. So adding a little bit of ink very quickly to that just brings those to life a little bit more. I'm going to pack away my sage so I don't get my colours all mixed up. I'm going to bring in the Sundance, and I'm going to do the same thing for this area in this gum tree flower. Now I've got some little tiny brushes. If you have a little makeup brush, that will work. One that you can just put in the edge and speckle around. I am not blending, I am just doing a little light pounce, and I'm keeping the ink on here and just bringing it out just a little bit. You can see as I move that off, if I tap it off a little bit, I'll get a bit of a lighter one, but my aim is to get a few little speckles to go around this area. Now I've lost my little center, so I'm going to have to cut that piece out again, but basically what that is the center with the light side, no inking on it at all, and I just pop that straight back in. I usually keep all the small little pieces on the mat, and I've taken it off and I've lost it. So now what I'm going to do is just move ahead with these two larger pieces of the floral elements, the little buds, work out which way these go, and then I'm going to ink up just down near the base where it joins up to the stem. So that's that one, and this is the bottom one here. And just by doing some pouncing, I've got a little bit of texture, and that makes that all look very organic and natural. I just need to put a little bit of liquid glue on these pieces, and then I can pick these up with my pickup tool, which is such a handy tool, not just for sequins, for pieces of paper, for small letters, all sorts of things, acrylic shapes. And I've got this little piece here to recreate as well. So I've got to do 2 more little Cricut cuts of these, and then I will be back to put the layout together. With the magic of video, I'm now back with my completed pages. I wanted to point out that when we do these layouts, Julie and myself work off a sketch that we have done in Design Space, and I will have all the details for this down below in the description, so you can click on that link and see what we're doing with this. When I designed the June layout, I put 2 6x4 landscape photos, but when I came to actually printing my photos, they worked better in a portrait orientation. I didn't have a lot of photos in the landscape version for this time around. So I've taken this sketch and I've adapted it to suit, which is perfectly fine to do. That's what sketches are for. They're like a jumping off point. You can take them for inspiration. They give you the base of the layout, and then you can run with it to what suits your needs. So I've put 2 3x4s in each of these 6x4 orientated photo places. A little about the photos that I've got for this month. The winter sunsets have been beautiful. I missed the really blood red type sunset that we had. I was at a weekend retreat that weekend, and I spoiled myself with some accommodation so that I didn't have to drive to and from. The retreat didn't actually have accommodation, it was at a hall, and the area that I stayed in was just beautiful with lots of gum trees and everything. It was just lovely to drive to the hall each time and go down this part of the road where there was lots of trees rather than driving through suburbia like I normally do. I've got some photos here with flip flaps, so I just wanted to show you how I was doing that. This is my retreat part. Lovely Deanne, who does all the cooking, and it's just fabulous. So I've put all the cooking in there, breakfast, lunch and dinner, and her scones are absolutely fabulous. And I wanted to show you that I am using the clear shipping labels to do my typing in. So I just type these up in a document and I size the text box, and then I trim them down after they've printed so that they will fit on my journal boxes. And I just find that when I do the typing, I actually write a lot more and a lot more detail about everything. And when I adhere these, I usually peel off just a section and peel that back a little bit, and then I line it up on my journal box so that everything is all nice and straight. And let's hope it stays that way. And then I just peel it back like this to adhere to my journal box, and that comes out beautifully. Now, what I would recommend with these, when you run them through your printer, set them aside to dry. If you try and adhere them and then press them down, my printer, the ink stays wet for a little bit long, so that will smudge. So then I can just slide that back into my flip flap. I'm going to cut slits into my page protector, and I've decorated each edge with a little stitch circle and a little arrow so people know to flip to get the whole story. There's no way with my writing that I would be able to write that much detail onto a little journaling spot. And I've got another flip flap here, so this one goes up and then down, but this one will just go up and up again because of the floral element that I've got under here. So I've got some more journaling here, some more girls and some fun in pajamas at the retreat. That was such a fun group to hang out with. That's not all of the girls that were there, but we had a great time, and I completed a whole entire mini album for my daughter for a recent vacation that we did, so that was a great time to work on a project for me. I also ran a couple of back-to-back workshops over the weekend, so I've got photos of that, and this was quite a narrow photo. There was a lot of height to it, so I've printed it as a 3x4 and then I've trimmed it right down so that I have just that section to put at the top and a little bit of text about that. And this is why this flip flap section goes up and then up again. I wouldn't be able to put one going down because I've got these floral elements here, and then I've done some journaling about the rest of the month of June. I hope you can see the sponging on these details of the leaves. I've done quite a few of that. I talked about how the ink absorbs into the paper. Doing the sponging adds a lovely little bit of texture to this Gumtree style leaf, and I really love how the flowers are looking. And then I've just scattered a few little wooden hearts around to complete that. I'm really happy with how my June looks, with it being on the light side of linen, and also doing the title in New England Ivy instead of doing it with black. I think works really well with this selection of the tiled style triangles. I can't wait to see what design Julie comes up with for our July pages. If you haven't watched her video, there will be a link at the end of this, and as I said before, it'll be down in the description below with a link to the playlist as well as all the supplies that I have used on this layout. Thank you so much for watching. Happy crafting, and bye for now.